Welcome to On Your Own Terms. I'm Patty Talbot, and this is the place where we learn together what it takes to change the world on our own terms and in our own special ways. Today, I'm honored to have with me Lisa Lyons. Lisa is another one of my friends that I met through HPS, Heroic Public Speaking. Their work is all about helping people like Lisa and me try to save the world one speech at a time. I'm working to be a better speaker, and Lisa is there shining her light on the simple acts of human connection and kindness that can indeed save the world one act at a time. It's such a privilege to be in the space with Lisa because she exudes positivity and love and caring. The kind of love and caring that she has received in some of the difficult challenges that have come across her own life in recent years. So I welcome Lisa to share today her homegrown solutions for this patchwork world we share. I know you will be inspired by her message and moved to spread the kindness in your heart and to make connections with those around you. Welcome, Lisa Lyons.
Thank you, Patty. I'm so happy to be here. Homegrown. I am a Jersey girl through and through. I was born in New Jersey and I am still in New Jersey. My childhood has a lot to do with who I am. I had really a very uneventful childhood, but a really good one. My parents gave me and my siblings just a great life. We lived in the suburbs in Bergen County, New Jersey. We lived on a small dead-end street where we became friends with all the families on the street, hours playing outside, having fun, running around, just doing our thing. My father had his own business. He was a butcher. And my mother, so we always ate really well. And my mother was the quintessential stay-at-home mom. She was there all the time, cooking, cleaning, baked goods, everything you could possibly want. They were very supportive, always involved, not quite involved like we are nowadays, because it was just different back then. And my parents, especially my mom, because I saw her more because my father was always working, she was just always out there and willing to help and being kind to people. My mother's very quiet. She's very introverted, but she's always willing to help. And I think that's where it all started with me. I was taught to be polite, taught to be nice, and just taught to look around and see what others need. And I think that's just really melted into who I am today. And it's hopefully who I've taught my kids to be. And it's really how I've lived my entire life. I've been very involved in everything I've done. And I've always had a curiosity and an interest in everyone around me, including strangers. I'm the person who loves to talk to anyone that's next to me in a store, on a line, in an airport. I'm that person. So that has definitely melted into my life and has totally driven me to where I am now. Issues that are important to me, there's too many to name. As we've talked about before, Patty, I came from the world of education. I was a special education teacher for years and years. And education was really on the forefront of my issues for a long time. And then as COVID hit and things started to change in the world, I started to just see this negativity and this headspace that everyone was in of feeling the need to almost put people down, speak their mind, even if it wasn't necessarily the nice thing to say. I just found the world very negative. And what happened to me was I just don't handle negative well. And I don't think I ever really realized it until COVID. Not to go into the entire story because it's too long, but during COVID, my one daughter got very ill and we were really struggling as a family to try and get her a diagnosis. It was very bad for at least a year. And I think with all that pressure, plus teaching virtually for the first time, it was so much pressure on me that I started to crack. I started to go in on myself. I was removing myself from my regular social situations, I was just really becoming more involved in my own problems, which is not how I normally am. And that was leading me to start to notice all the negative in the world. I was just seeing it, hearing it, feeling it, and it really had a really big effect on me. I just felt myself just going into a space that I didn't like. So that's where I changed. I was like, we need people to realize again, to go back to the old school ways. Take care of your neighbors, take care of your friends, even take care of strangers. Look at the people around you, see who they are, see what they might need. And just the understanding that everyone around you, including the person that you don't know behind you online, is a person with possibly a family and problems and struggles and triumphs and a history. So I just think that people forgot that for a while. And I do think it's slowly coming back, but I felt like that became the forefront of my mission. I wanted people to treat each other with compassion and respect and kindness. So I made a big turn. I left teaching. I decided to start my own consulting business, which was to get into helping teachers more. But then since then, the kindness and treating others with compassion and respect has become such a big issue for me that now I'm starting to public speak on it, to go out there and try and get my message out. And that's what I'm hoping to do with my message of just understanding that everyone around us is another human being. We're only one little piece in this world. Just from teaching alone, you're in a classroom, you are instantly in a room with, say, 30 people that are different from you. And it's funny because the older you get, it's true, the wiser you get. You start to see things differently, right? When you have children, things differently. The more friends you have, things differently. The more struggles you have, things differently. As I've aged and I've gotten wiser, I have really started to see my students and their families differently. I now understand that maybe this family doesn't have what another family has, and you have to look at each student differently. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's easy to forget, and it's easy to get bogged down by the everyday. But when you start taking everyone's circumstances into place, it just changes how you feel about everything and everyone. So I've learned over the years, even though something might bother me or get to me, I've learned to take a breath, take a step back, and try and see it from their point of view. Even if I don't agree, just try and see it from their point of view, instead of trying to shove my point of view down their throat. I'll give you an example from years ago when I was a young budding teacher. I was big into homework. I thought homework was so important. It was such a big deal. And then my one daughter, who struggled in school, homework was such a sore spot for our family because it was ours. It was crying, it was screaming, it was fighting, and it would sometimes ruin our home life at night. So I went in and had a nice conversation, a polite and open conversation with the teacher about what was happening and that it was too much and she couldn't do it. And it was really getting on her, just really bothering her and it was putting herself down. And again, ruining our evenings. So after talking and working it through, we figured out a way to make it better for us. As I went on in my teaching career, I realized that no, not every family can do the homework. Not every family is equipped with the time or the knowledge, or maybe the student can't handle it. I never said she didn't need to do the homework. We just figured out a way that it worked for our family that was acceptable for school, which is my big thing with schools and parents. It should be a collaborative team, as we've spoken about before. So that's like in my teaching days. Now in my life now, what has led me to talk about compassion and kindness. Again, my other daughter, who you learn a lot from your kids, right? So when my other daughter became ill, and I was in that really bad place, we flew to Mayo Clinic. And when you're at the Mayo Clinic, you're surrounded by people from all over the world, all walks of life, who are coming here for treatment, for diagnosis, a lot of times in their most desperate hour. So when we were there, when I first got there, I was just very involved in myself and my daughter. That was all I really was looking for. But slowly, not so slowly, but slowly, I realized that everyone there who was really struggling with so much, they were all so kind to everybody else. And I'll tell you the one story. One day we were sitting in a little lounge area and all these different people talking, and me and my daughter were sitting next to each other, and she got up to leave to go to an appointment. And I was speaking to the man next to me, and he very kindly was like, "Is your daughter going to be okay?" And we had a conversation. And then as he was getting ready to leave, I just said, "Oh, I hope everything's okay with you. Is your Are you here for yourself or your family member? And he said, oh, I'm here for me. He said, I'm having my leg amputated later on today. And I remembered like he left and I thought, you're having this big, giant, life-altering surgery, but you're sitting here asking me about my daughter. And he didn't know me. He didn't have to talk to me. He was just offering his kindness. And he had been there before, obviously, so he knew the way everything went there. And that happened over and over again, Patty. Like in this town, everyone knew that everyone there was struggling with something. And everybody went out of their way to just make even a moment a little bit easier for you, or to let you know that they were there. And that really opened my eyes. I was like, oh my God, this makes a difference. It made a complete difference in my life. And I brought it back home. I always lived that way, but I never really was I guess I was never really on the receiving end as much. People have done nice things for me all my life, but I've never really been in such a negative space that I realized that just a touch to the shoulder or a gentle conversation could really lift your day. It just opened my eyes, and seeing people with different struggles, bigger struggles, again, it made me realize that you never know what the person next to you is going through. And that's what I want everyone to take with them. When you're anywhere in your regular day, you don't know what's happening in that person's life. It doesn't matter if they have the same views as you or not. It makes no difference. We're all just humans, right? We're all just people trying to survive and trying to do our best. And we all have bad days. I'd love to hear other people's views, even opposing views, as long as it can be a polite conversation. It's the people who take it so personally that they want to attack. That's when I feel myself having to walk away and just let it go, because I don't like to engage in that kind of conversation. I can disagree with somebody. I can agree to disagree, but I don't want to argue about it. I want to just, this is my side. This is your side. Okay. It seems in my life, I've always been surrounded by people with very different opinions than myself. I don't know why. In my family, with my friends, I've always been the one with the outside opinion, and I've always made it work. It's always been okay, that's how you think. That's fine. Tell me more about it. But I've never really let it get in the way of relationships. So I recently traveled to Dominican Republic in January of this year with Create to Smile, which is an organization that's made to empower women and children. And so we went to a small village and with a school that needed repair, and the school needed bathrooms. And we fixed the wood was rotting off the school. So we fixed that. We painted it. And then you have all the fun of playing with the children. We loaded their supply closet up. So being a teacher, that opened my eyes to a new world. So in the United States, I'm in class begging students to do anything for me, begging them to do work, and they don't want to. But here, you're in a country where they don't really have much at all, and the kids they're hungry for it. They want to come. They want to learn. They want to experience it. Every little thing you give them, they're so grateful for. We would bring tiny little toys, a little ball, crayons, and it was like you gave them the best gift ever. They shared so well. You give a kid a ball and he'd share it with everybody else. Where I find in the United States, they'd be like, that's mine, hands off kind of thing. So it opened my eyes to, again, people who have less seem to give more. I don't speak Spanish at all. I maybe have 3 words, if that. But yet you were able to communicate because it was just compassion, empathy, love, fun. We sat, we played. They exuded love every time you walked into the village. They exuded gratefulness for everything we were doing. Every little thing we did, they were so thankful for. I'll tell you a quick story. One of the gentlemen who was there, who came every day, dressed so nice. He was so well dressed. He wanted to show us where his wife, and I think it was two kids, 2 girls, where they were staying. So we walked back and we went in, and it was what I would call a hut. So it was these 3 kind of metal falling down walls, a makeshift roof, no bathrooms, no showers. There was a bucket in there where they put water, no electricity, nothing that me or you are used to. And this man, his wife, and his daughters were gorgeous. Like they were all dressed so well, which I was amazed because they don't have the facilities that we have. And he was so thankful for what we were doing that he wanted to offer us anything he had. And he had very little. And he was not embarrassed to show us. He was showing us where he lived. He wanted us to know, and he wanted us to understand that how grateful he was that we were helping his children. And I was so moved by that, because in the United States, You don't want people to come to your house when your house is messy. Giving people things when you don't have a lot is just a sign of pure love. And every place we went, they wanted to feed us. They wanted to give us drinks. They wanted to hug us. It was a lesson in the most basic life necessities, just having fun, laughing, loving everyone around you, and just offering compassion and gratefulness to everybody. That's what everyone in that place did. So I will definitely go back. It's something that I believe everyone should do at least once in their lifetime. My dream is just for people to treat others with compassion. It's just to put humanity before your own needs. And I don't mean being 100% nice and all the time. Nobody can do that. What I mean is just to always take a breath before you react to anything. If that person in front of you online is driving you crazy, just take a breath before you say anything and think. What you say or do can affect that person's day or possibly even their life. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it really can. A friend of mine told me a story where her son, who was, I think, 16 or 17 at the time, worked in the local supermarket. And during COVID, somebody came in and was screaming at him for something. And he was a very shy kid. And it took him a long time to get the job and to work. And here, all his friends are home because most people aren't working, but he's still working. And she said that he came home devastated and he didn't want to go back. And it was a big chore for them to get him back into the workplace. And I remember saying to people, if you were that person who yelled at him, you would feel horrible if you knew that. If you knew you were the one that caused that, you would feel bad. Think about it. When you're tailgating that car in front of you that's going way too slow, how would you feel if that person pulled over and you had to meet them face to face and it was somebody's grandma who was nervous about driving on the street, right? Or if you were going to yell at customer service agents, how would you feel if you met them in a restaurant? Like, it's just thinking of them as people. And when you've been on the receiving end of someone treating you kindly in a bad time, it's when you realize that everyone has a bad day. So you want to be that person that you needed on your day. And I've always found that sometimes the best part of my day, and probably very often, I'd say 5 out of 7 days, one of my highlights of my day is usually a stranger, some kind of funny joke that I've made, a conversation I've had. And that's probably because I tend to talk to people everywhere I go. But it's amazing who's around you. I've made so many contacts, both personally and professionally. Sixia is a great example. I never would have traveled to Dominican Republic had I not just met Sixia and started having a conversation. And then one thing led to the next, and next thing, me and my family are traveling to Dominican Republic. If I had my dream, my message would be to people to just think of others as actual people. And think before you speak, and always try to put goodness out in the world when you can. Try to put it out there when you can. People have often said to me things like, I don't have time to volunteer. I don't have time to do big things, but I want the world to be better. But if everyone just did this little itty bitty thing of being kinder, the ripple effects can be massive. They can keep going, keep going. And I just don't know if people understand. They all think of making the world better as doing something giant, but it really isn't. It's just being that person every day as much as you can and putting some good out into the world and going to bed at night knowing that you did something good, even if it's teeny, teeny, tiny, because everyone has a story they remember about a stranger. It might be from 10 years ago, but you remember it. Do you want to be the story they remember that was a great story? Or do you want to be the story that somebody remembers for the wrong reasons? Nobody wants to be that story. So just put out there what you want. And my hope is that if we all start doing this and it starts becoming normal again, that maybe things will be a little bit more gentler and a little bit kinder. It won't fix all the world's problems, but it might help. When you do it and you start putting the goodness out in the world, not looking for any kind of return, more goodness. You see the little things that happen. You see the funny parts of your day, that strangers talking to other people, and you start to notice the good, and it totally improves your life. I'm like, 98% of people are kind, and a mother is a mother. Right. A mother sitting in Israel is the same as a mother sitting in India, is the same as a mother sitting. It doesn't make a difference where you are. You're a mother. And that goes for everything. When you see people, as humans, then you just take a beat. Most people are kind. There are some people out there who are not, but most people are kind. My message has changed over the past couple of years. It was education. It's moving more. But I think it's all the same. As teachers, we tend to be people who take care, right? And people who want to make things better. So I think it's just that I've broadened my message that I think was a message from when I was growing up. I think when I was younger, I'm not necessarily saying people were nicer back then. I think without all the social media, without all the connection, you just had to connect to people in your day-to-day life. I love social media. I love I'm not against it. I just think that when I see kids, my kids' age, so in their young 20s, they hesitate so much to talk to people. They're so afraid. And I just want people to realize that most people are kind. Most people want to learn about you. So I would just implore the younger generation to get out there and travel and meet people and go with a lot of your comfort zone. Talk to somebody. You'd be surprised. I'm asking people just to take a beat and just think about how you want to be seen in the world. Think about when you leave the room, how do you want to leave the room? Just think about what you want your imprint to be, right? What did you leave in that space? Even if it's tiny, just what did you leave? My website is lisalyonsspeaks.com. You can definitely contact me with questions or give me examples of kindnesses that you've happened to you or that you've seen. I would love to hear anything that anyone has to tell me because I love listening to stories of kindness. I get them all the time from people and they make my day. So please share anything with me. And I just implore you to get a little bit out of your comfort zone and go out there. And if you feel like you want more in life, I promise you, the more you give, the more you get.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It was an honor to hear your story and to hear your special brand of homegrown solutions for the patchwork world we share. Your warmth and kindness shines out of every pore in your body. And I have no doubt that people who are fortunate enough to hear your message are going to feel inspired to spread their own warmth and kindness throughout the world. And together we really can make the world a better place. One connection and one act of kindness at a time. Listeners, I hope you will follow Lisa Lyons closely. I hope you'll want to spread the word around so that she'll have lots of opportunities to get in front of audiences. Perhaps you have an organization, perhaps you have an event coming up where you know that your organization and the people you serve could use that little oomph to show up with their very best selves, showing kindness to those around them. I hope you'll follow Lisa's work, and I hope you'll also follow my work at blueroadseducation.org. That's where you can find me, as well as here on this show every week on your own terms, where we meet change makers who are changing the world on their own terms and in their own special ways. That's my work these days, celebrating, supporting, and cultivating change makers like Lisa and like you, because there are 16 attributes that all change makers share. It's there in the research, and I have created a little framework to help us work together to build those skills, to build our muscles as change makers. And I frame it around the ideas of beingness, doingness, connectedness, and reflectiveness. Who are we at our homegrown core? Who are we in our beingness? What are the core values that we bring to the work? What is the way that we show up with a sense of agency that we can do something worthwhile? What is our doingness? What is our calling to make the world a better place? And how can we solve problems using our best creativity and innovative ideas? And how can we stick with it? How can we persevere? The connectedness quadrant is all about our social interactions, using our social emotional intelligence, especially empathy and good communication skills, as well as cultural competencies, so that we work well with others across diverse populations. The fourth quadrant is what I call the reflecting quadrant. What are we reflecting on inside ourselves from the things that happen to us so that we learn our life's lessons as they come our way? And what are we reflecting outwardly, letting our light shine into the world in a way that others might want to follow us and catch a little bit of that glow? Next week, I'll have another homegrown change maker join us on her own terms. And in the meantime, may you be grounded in your beingness, guided in your doingness, generous in your connectedness, and inspired in your reflectiveness, so you can consciously change the world on your own terms. I'm Patty Talbot. I'm always learning, and I know you are too.